Yang berbahagia Deputy Deans, Deputy Directors, heads of departments, head of research, head of international and global networking, professors, associate professors, doctors, and academic members, and last but not least, our graduates, the young researchers and scholars in the making, and all the participants of this grand meeting and event. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Welcome to session 3 of our research presentation competition in English. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are able to convene this session to present the posters that focus on the human and social sciences. My name is Fatima Altalib from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, and I'm indeed honored to be your moderator for this session. And I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this grand opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to read out to you the titles of the vast variety of research posters that will be presented today, inshallah. So the first poster will be the role of Islamic political parties in establishing democracy in Bangladesh, 1971 to 2018, by Muhammad Zillur Rahman. The second poster will be creating jobs to boost sustainable livelihood for youth with different abilities in Brunei Darussalam, New Opportunities, by Nurul Haji Roslan. The third would be promoting sustainable sports legacy in goalball, a lifelong learning platform for student athletes with visual impairments, by Baidruel Abdu Rahim. The fourth is Bangladeshi women's empowerment efforts of household solid waste management through the 5R approaches, a case study of Dhaka, Bangladesh. And this is by Tahera Sultana. Then we have Beyond Acts of Mediation and Moderation to Avail Robust and All-Inclusive Salutations to Health Insurance Uptake in Uganda, The Consumer's Perspective on the Marketing Mix, by Yusuf Katono. Then we have Determining the Characteristic Customer Intention Management, Performance, an Authentic Study Among SMEs Transport Service, by Mohammad Fairos Mohammad Shah. And then we have Teachers' Behavioral Intention and Acceptance of Technology as an Intervention for Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder, by Mohammad Shadab Khan, Noor Azizah Mohammadali, and Asadullah Shah. And then we have Non-Statutory Welfare Schemes, the Unpopular Passage to Improving Staff Welfare Condition in Organization, by Kakaire Abdu. And then we have faculty members' perceptions towards accreditation processes and its impacts on quality assurance management at Indonesian higher education institutions, by Muhammad Absor. And then we have Examining the Effect of News Media Coverage on the Syrian Civil War towards Radical Extremist Mindset Among Malay Muslims, by Nurul Miza Muhammad Rashid. We have the Development of Mindfulness Parenting Module with Islamic Integration for Muslim Parents with Atypical Children using ADDIE model, by Siti Inara Hasim. And then we have an evaluation of service quality dimension at private learning institutions in Perak, by Salihuddin Bin Bismelah. And then we have an experimental investigation of the influence of social modeling on narcissism, by Ahmed Ali Ansari, Mujib Masood Bati. And then we have Women Not for Sale, Determination of Women's Marriage Rights through Jujuran within the Marriage System in Banjar, Indonesia, by Anwar Hafidzi. And lastly, we have Foreign Aid Policy of Muslim Donors, the case study of the State of Qatar, by Fadl Abdullah Umar Bashir. As you can see, there's a very vast and wide variety of research posters today from all over the world. And I invite all the participants and everyone, the honored guests, to now listen to and watch the presentations of these posters from the researchers. I believe the technician will play the recording of the video soon.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Nabilah binti Roslan, and I'm from Sociology and Anthropology Department. First, let me ask you a question. Do you want to see yourself as intelligent, competent, and worthy of respect? I believe the answer is yes. But that's more difficult for youth with different abilities or YWDA. Why? It's because they face barriers like discrimination, stigma, and stereotypes in the society. So, what can be done to improve the lives of the YWDA? Please enter my research. The title of my research is Creating Jobs to Boost Sustainable Livelihood for Youth with Different Abilities in Brunei Darussalam, New Opportunities. These are the contents of my presentation. So I started with a research question. What are the new employment opportunities for the YWDA in Brunei? We all understand that the employment is a valuable tool for many individuals to achieve their ideal lifestyle and also to earn the respect of others. It also ensures the financial security, which is truly important for everyone. Many of the job seekers in the market has heightened the job competition, and the YWDA is greatly affected by this, where they face unemployment and also underemployment. I believe that YWDA should be given opportunities to explore the other employment alternatives. This can help to reduce the negative perceptions, stereotypes, and also stigma inflicted by the society. Brunei has ratified the conventions of on rights of persons with disabilities (CRPD), and this can be seen as a reflection of the support for the PWDA. However, the prevalence of unemployment among the YWDA is still an issue. Amaniden in 2020 reported that only 130 people with different abilities are employed. So it can be seen that only little percentage managed to secure employment in comparison to thousands of PWDA who registered under the Community Development Department. Based on the Brunei's Labor Force Survey in 2019, 80% of the youth are unemployed. With the workforce have limited seats that comes with high job requirements, this has affected the employment opportunities for the YWDA. The prime motivation to undertake this research is due to the lack of study devoted to investigate the interests of the YWDA in digital entrepreneurship. And this is the research gap identified in the literature. The objective of this study is to examine new employment opportunities for YWDA in Brunei. The study's significance are divided into three. The first one is to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). They are SDG 1, no poverty. The second one is SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. And the last one is SDG 10, reduce inequalities. The second significance is to achieve Brunei Vision 2035, which is the first goal is to produce highly educated, skilled, and also accomplished people. The third significance is UNESCO Education 2030. The methods. The design of the study is qualitative method, specifically adopted unstructured interview. For this research, there were 15 participants. They are consist of 11 males and 4 females. All of them are Malays, and their age range from 18 to 36 years old, and all of them are unemployed. The participants were recruited via purposive sampling technique. The participant different abilities are divided into three categories: vision, physical, and also learning. Thematic approach was employed for data analysis. Most importantly, the ethical considerations were addressed accordingly. Permission to get access to the informants was obtained from the Department of Community Development Brunei and also other NGOs, specifically Pusat Ehsan and Anwar Harapan Center. Prior to the interview, information sheet and also consent forms were distributed to the participants. The findings. There are three findings for the study. The first one is empowered via digital entrepreneurship. The second one is equipped with necessary digital skills. And the third one is partnership with several industries. For the first findings is regarding the empowerment of YWDA through digital entrepreneurship. Empowered via digital entrepreneurship means that the YWDA can explore new opportunities where with having proper skills, exposure, and also commitment, digital entrepreneurship will certainly help to empower them in many ways. It is also through digital entrepreneurship that YWDA can contribute significantly to the society and also help the to help strengthens Brunei economy. Next is equipped with necessary digital skills. Majority of the participants are exposed to computer skills and social media in schools and also during their internship. So they are aware of its importance and also believe these skills can help them to venture into digital entrepreneurship path. And lastly, the partnership with several industries. By establishing partnerships will help them to promote the businesses. So collaborations with with industries can assist them to plan for the future and have experience and tackle common problems in businesses, and also to have more opportunities for learning, grow their network, and also to create brand awareness. In conclusion, I believe that must be shift from becoming a job seeker to job creator. This is one of the ways to reduce unemployment and also most importantly to improve their standard of living. So my recommendation from this research is to propose to the stakeholders to hire YWDA as their apprentice to help them gain new skills and knowledge that they need to succeed in life. I would like to end my presentation with Nelson Mandela's quote: "Disabled children are equally entitled to an exciting and brilliant future." Thank you very much. And please support our YWDA for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and hi. I'm Baidruel from Sociology and Anthropology Department, Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, International Islamic University Malaysia. Let me begin with a quote by Jeff Adams, a Canadian Paralympian and a six-time world champion in wheelchair sports. He said, "You learn so much more when things are not easy, are not fed to you when things are not perfect." This quote tells us that our limitations are not stopping us from striving for excellence in life. This holds true, particularly with student athletes with visual impairment whom I met during my fieldwork. They play goalball. The question is, what role does goalball play in the life of student athletes with visual impairment? Goalball sport has been introduced to the visually impaired communities around the world for many decades. Initially, it was played for rehabilitation and physical recovery purposes among the World War veterans. In 1960, goalball has been included in many competitive leagues through its inception in the Paralympics program. Today, goalball has grown its reputation since that moment as one of the elite para sports that is played in Para-ASEAN Games, Para-Asian Games, and Paralympics. My research is about goalball, student athletes with visual impairment, sustainability, and lifelong learning experiences as indicated in the topic. It seeks to explore the role of goalball as a platform for a lifelong learning experience of the disabled students. My study resonates the current global initiatives, particularly the Sustainable Development Goals, especially number 3, 4, and 10. UNESCO Education 2013 Agenda, Malaysia Education Development Plans, and Malaysia Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. In general, previous studies have very much focused on coaching and biomechanics dimensions of goalball. Studies related to the role of goalball are understudied. Employing qualitative approach is rare, especially in the area of sports and disability. These gaps have motivated me to explore more about the connection between goalball, lifelong learning experience, and student athletes with visual impairment. Using ethnographic approach, I have spent 14 months in the field to obtain relevant data using in-depth interviews and observations in Setapak, Kuala Lumpur. I recruited 20 participants, both males and females, using the purposive sampling technique. They are from the Malay, Chinese, and Indian ethnic groups. They belong to B1, 2, and 3 category of visual impairment. Their age ranges from 13 to 18 years old. All of them have participated in several local and international tournaments. Prior to my fieldwork, permissions from relevant authorities such as Educational Planning and Research Division, KL Education Department, and school were granted. My research revealed that goalball unlocks leadership potentials among student athletes, allows them to be resilient and independent in several decision-making processes, and nurture their social skills. Goalball enhances leadership talents among the student athletes. They learn to manage the team during competition and training, work and plan together as a group. Next, goalball has also shaped their character as a resilient and independent person. They made decisions, shouldered some responsibilities, and held accountable for their actions. My participants revealed that goalball has transformed their life enormously, either in school or at home. They generally help their parents and spend quality time with their families more than before they took up the sport, indicating how goalball has regulated their action and behavior. Finally, goalball stimulates my participants' social skill. By playing goalball competitively, they learn new game strategies, and those are indeed useful and practiced in their real life. Also, I discovered some of them have improved their communication skill despite their passive characteristic. Certainly, goalball helps them. Based on my analysis, the findings strongly suggest that goalball is a promising sport for disabled students who want to become empowered to act as agents of change in the society. In summary, goalball is a platform where student athletes with visual impairment gain important life skills for their career advancement after they completed schooling. I suggest future researchers to study other parasports and other types of disabilities to explore the prospects of empowering disabled students. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tahera Sultana, and I am pursuing a PhD in Sociology and Anthropology at International Islamic University, Malaysia, under the supervision of Professor Dr. Ruhaiza Rokish. Today, I am giving a presentation of my research poster, and I am very glad to get this opportunity. We humans rely on many things from the environment to meet our needs. Yet, as a result of our progress, we produce a lot of stuff that we don't need. We simply throw them away. Packet meals, bottle beverages, canned meals, and other similar items are frequently purchased. But what do we do it once we have had it? Is it that true that we discard all the wrappers or the bottles? What about the meals and veggies that were left over from the kitchen? Yes, even that is thrown away. We throw out a variety of items, including old newspapers, plastic boards, cardboards, broken electronic devices, trash, and the smallest broken objects. We dispose such items in a variety of ways because we are no longer able to utilize them. It's possible that on or both are undesirable, malfunctioning, or outdated. A significant quantity of garbage is generated at the household level, and this is referred to as waste. So, my PhD research is focused on Bangladeshi women's empowerment efforts of household solid waste management through the fiber approaches at the study of Dhaka, Bangladesh. Household solid waste management is a major challenge around the world, especially in developing countries like Bangladesh. The primary goal of this research is to learn how women motivate themselves through household solid waste management, that means HSWM programs. In Bangladesh, about 800 tons of solid wastes are generated in one day from 6 major cities. The highest volume comes from Dhaka, Rajshahi, Khulna, Borishal, and Sylhet. Dhaka generates 1.65 million metric tons annually. More than 86% of the residents in Dhaka are not conscious of the waste management system. Lack of consciousness, insufficient financial support, lack of technological knowledge, and lack of standard management for waste disposal are the major constraints for waste management in Bangladesh. Women's engagement in the management of household solid waste is extremely significant in Bangladesh, but there are no practical methods to increase their abilities. To ensure the sustainability of the waste management system in the direction of women's empowerment, a shift in society's view is required. The major goal of the research is to learn how women empower themselves through SSWN programs and what factors impact women's participation in fiber-based solid waste management programs at home. This study aims to discover how women's involvement and efforts in SSWN problems impact their ability to self-empower, what women activists are concerned about, and how they are expressing their concerns for empowerment from home through SSWM to develop a collective identity, and what techniques do they use to enroll in an SSWM program in Bangladesh to achieve empowerment. Their motives for fiber techniques to join actively in the SSWM program for empowerment are also discussed. The SSWM program is related to the collection, transportation, dumping, and treatment of waste. In many Bangladesh cities, waste is being inadequately disposed of in open land. Waste recycling and reusing are almost the same as needed to achieve some of the goals of sustainable development. With a little planning, thought, and creativity, it is possible to reduce household waste significantly. The objective of waste recycling is to reduce landfill waste, and at the same time it reduces the number of raw materials, energy, and water consumption. The cost of waste management is rising, and the associated social, environmental, and health problems also increased. Repurposing is the use of something for a purpose other than its original intended use. Restoring household waste means to use waste as an input of resource material to create valuable products. More than 13 million tons of cloth and jute products in Bangladesh convert as landfilling waste every year. Restoration, optimization, and the values created from waste and is a part of circular economy. It reduces the amount of waste generated, thus bringing down the need for landfills. Waste management program in Bangladesh The waste management program was executed in 2010 through national 3R, that was reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it was through the national 3R policy. Chittagong City Corporation produces over 5,220 tons of waste daily nowadays. Dhaka City Corporation has failed to handle the whole household solid waste of the increasing population and lower participation of the households for overall sustainable SSWM policies. As fiber approach is more effective than 3R, so the country's policy suggests shifting 3R to fiber implementation. Chittagong City Corporation took up a pilot project for the garbage treatment plant in 2014 at Halisahar to produce fuel from rubbish. Early waste management allowed indiscriminate open dumping and burning, disposal of waste into water bodies, landfilling, and direct disposal into agricultural land. CARE has started working in Dhaka, Dinajpur, Mymensingh City Corporation, and Jashore through Shahar project sponsored by USAID since 2010. CARE is as a national, as a private organization and working in Bangladesh under the sponsor of USAID. A single theory is not enough to represent the complete framework for the present study. Two theories will be used to conduct qualitative methods for explaining factors, causes, and influences of five approaches towards women empowerment at household level. The first theory is about the ecofeminism. Is applied in research as a first, and according to this model, nature is a feminist issue, and it is interrelated to household solid waste management and fiber technology. The second part of the model is the theory of plant behavior, that is composed of behavior and intention. This study aims to examine factors associated with SSWM behaviors by directly measuring TPB attributes. That means theory of plant behavior attributes. This model will support all the factors of women's empowerment towards socio-environmental sustainability by reducing, reusing, recycling, repurposing, and restoring. The study will investigate the Bangladeshi women's empowerment efforts of household solid waste management through the fiber approaches. And this is the design of my proposed SSWM system. The research will be conducted by interviewing selecting women households in Dhaka city, and which is located in central Bangladesh along the Buriganga River. This is the study area, and this is the Dhaka City Corporation, and that will be my research will be conducted in this Dhaka City Corporation. And there is the two locations. This is the north side and the south side. This research will cover the both of these areas. ACWM for this area is not only a social environmental emergence, but also an economically feasible mitigation that will work towards sustainable women's import in Bangladesh. The blended model of TPB and ecofeminism will be reanalyzed to better suit the application of the fiber approaches. And in-depth semesters and interview will be conducted with women solid waste handlers at household level. In this study, individual in-depth interviews will be conducted to collect data from women participants, specifically those involved with ACWM program. The data, which may consist of interview scripts, field notes, for participant observations, a wide variety of records and historical documents, memoranda will be treated to rigorous analysis. The interview schedule will allow the individual the opportunity to relate their own experience and to describe events that should be seemed significant to them. Our interviews will be conducted as face-to-face and will be recorded using a voice recorder. The guide will be relevant to the study's objectives, especially on ACSW and women's empowerment. This study will also rely on the secondary data. In this study, I must say that the data analysis will consist of 6 steps: organizing the data, finding and organizing the concepts, and building overarching themes, finding possible and plausible explanation, and overview of the findings. In addition, the data will be analyzed using computer-aided qualitative data analysis software. At the end, I would like to say that many individuals in Bangladesh are unaware of how obtain waste treatment and disposal services or how to properly manage their waste. In terms of empowered attitudes, social environmental sustainability, or career prospects, the fiber approaches initiatives may provide greater chances for women. At the home level, waste may be turned into a source of income for women. The majority of families do not have enough room at home to set up a recycling system. That may, however, implement repurposing strategies in accordance with Dhaka Municipal Authorities standards. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before you today is Yusuf Katono, a student from University Sultan Azlan Shah, pursuing a PhD in management. All right. Why is it that our research is not having the impact that we would wish it to have on the community? Remember, in most of the academic projects that are undertaken by scholars nowadays, specifically students, we always aim at solving a given societal problem. We tend to concentrate on applied research instead of pure research. So if we are doing applied research to a greater extent, it means we are seeking for solutions and suggesting answers for the society. But why is it that our research ends up being shelved at university libraries? It is put online, and managers on a day-to-day basis do not utilize the recommendations and the conclusions that we often make as researchers. Anyway, today we are here to specifically understand why. So we are saying that we need to move beyond the small acts, the minute acts, the insufficient acts of moderation and mediation. We need to adopt more robust approaches towards the research problem. And I've given an example of the low insurance uptake. This one is a global challenge, not only in Uganda, but globally. You would find that the global insurance uptake is only less than 6%. Healthy insurance uptake is less than 6% globally. So if that is the challenge, we wouldn't specifically look at, for example, pricing as a factor that affects the low uptake of health insurance. It is a combination of factors. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the human brain. At a given second, in a given minute, a human brain is processing so many factors at the same time. So we wouldn't love to undertake a project saying that it must be the prices. Therefore, for me, I'm looking at prices as the only factor affecting health insurance purchase decision. Then other scholars will go an extra mile and say we shall also look at consumer trust as a moderator or mediator of such kind of an effect or relationship, and they will concentrate on that to draw inferences and conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not enough. Managers of insurance companies will not take up your resolutions because they will be half baked. So we are suggesting that we need to go an extra mile. We need to have more robust, more all-inclusive models. Let's try, as we are casting our research problem, let's try to dig deeper into the factors that we read about to be affecting a given, to be having a given effect on the dependent variable. For example, if you're looking at marketing as a field like me, you would be looking at prices, products, perceptions of people towards the processes. You'll be looking at consumer trust as factors that affect healthy insurance penetration. But if you only concentrate on pricing alone and you say would mediate it with consumer trust, that is some, yes, you're right, but you're not, you are to a smaller extent right. Because assuming that all other factors can be kept constant, and yet you can bring all these factors and put them into one model such that you have one conclusive model, although it might appear complex, as you might see on the left hand side of your screen, as it might appear that you're looking at a very complex model, you're only trying to look out for all interrelationships between variables. Do not worry about the language of moderation or mediation. That one will work out itself at the end. Remember, your cardinal goal as the researcher is to look at the dependent variable. Does it change? To which extent does it change if you make changes in the different predictor variables? So the objectives of this particular presentation is to free postgraduate scholars from the limitations of moderation mediation, as you can see in the illustration in the bottom corner of your screen, that you'll be only looking at tying yourself on how to name these variables. Now, should this one be moderator, should this one be mediator, and you waste a lot of time on that. And as you're wasting time on that, you're also neglecting the existence of other factors that might be predictors to your dependent variable. And that's why we need to make thorough conceptualizations of a research problem. Assuming your research problem is the low health insurance uptake, you need now to incorporate complaints of consumers about prices. That one, you note it as predictor number one. You got predictor number two, processes. Then predictor number three will be the product itself. Number four might be personal. Number five might be the physical evidence of the promotional mix. The other will say, for me, it is consumer trust. So you need to combine all these factors into one model. At the end of the day, if you have something more comprehensive, a model which is comprehensive, you can be helped by your supervisor to narrow down a comprehensive model into something that is researchable, instead of running away from it to concentrate on mere moderation, mediation, while you're neglecting other factors that are on ground that might be having effects on your dependent variable. So today, I really implore my fellow postgraduate candidates that instead of carrying out research that ends up on library shelves and never implemented by managers in the fields that we would love to tip, I implore you, I recommend strongly that we should look at more complex and inclusive models. As you can see that we shall have now the indirect relationships, we shall have the direct relationship. And at the end of the day, The way how structural equation modeling works, you're trying to predict what goes on within the brain of an individual and have all those factors compacted or piled into one model. In the end, when you say there will be a 30% significant effect, indeed, even a manager in the fields who will seek for practical significance of your research will see it as a model worth implementing and resolutions or recommendations worth following. So from today onwards, as we are trying to look at a research problem, let us, as much as possible in our background of the problem and in the conceptualization, let's try as much as possible to identify as many predictors as possible such that we can appear to be a true representation of what is taking place on ground. That way, managers on a day-to-day basis who will be feeding off your recommendations will see your suggestions as reliable and valid and worth implementing. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me, Yusuf Katono from University Sultan Azlan Shah, supervised by Associate Prof. Zillur Rahman. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. A very good day to ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to share about my research. The title for this research, determining the characteristic customer attention management performance and authentic study among SME transport service. Then we take a look to the abstract. Customer loyalty can be monitored for the future and it challenge for enterprises in an organization. Democracy enterprises in organization mostly embark customer satisfaction in terms of their perception. This conclusive and empirical study is to investigate customer relationship management performance characteristics. Objective of this study is to investigate relationship between customer satisfaction and loyalty in delivery industries. This is a study to describe the characteristic of customer and to determine the degree to which marketing variable associated and significant relationship. The dimension for customer relationship management performance factor are customer attention. This study was conducted in Pulau Pinang, Selangor, and Johor Bahru. Furthermore, individual customers that use logistics service are sampled in this study. In addition, the total respondent of the questionnaire, about 391 respondents. The method of this study is applied research, and respondents are individual customers from 3 logistic companies. For this study, questionnaire on Likert scale is applied on this survey. According to the finding, the result showed that customer attention is significant to the study. Lastly, study also conducted using SEM analysis. Further study is important to customer effect study in organization. This is because the finding will support management of SME to know the relationship progress and highly varied customer relationship management practice. In addition, further trend is indulgent contextual factor value added that will embark customer relationship management as well as innovation and new product development sustainability. Now we take a look to the research problem. The research problem is first is lack relationship of customer attention. Secondly, characteristic customer satisfaction is critical to managing, developing, and improving the market and business development. Next, the research question. For this study, we use research question. First question is to investigate the effect of customer retention in customer relationship management format of SME logistic provider. Second research question is to investigate the relationship between customer retention and customer relationship management format of SME logistic provider. Our research methodology first was carried out for this research, and questionnaire were distributed to the respondent that consumer logistics service provider as well as Likert scale were applied in this study. Then the population is a target group which the individual person or the customer on this logistics service provider. The target population of the study were 391 respondents from Selangor, Johor, and Pulau Pinang, which are individual customers using their service on SME organization company. Last but not least, the data were analyzed by using SEM indices. Alright, then we look to the findings. In this study, it showed relationship between customer retention and customer relationship management format in logistics service industries. The findings showed that there was a positive and significant relationship between retention, gratification, and customer relationship management. All the variables meet reliability score assumption, which are above 0.845, that is a good fit index, AGFI 0.821, CFI 0.895, IFI 0.896, NFI 0.833, TLI 0.886, RMSEA 0.060, and last but not least, AIC at 1308.378 value. This score ensures that consistent and stability of independent variable measurement above this study. Then take a look for the conclusion. Finally, our research from a management perspective, we hope that this study could help manager understand customer from a different perspective. Managers are focused on providing good service but may not fully understand what customer really think of as satisfactory service. Consumers care about their own right and the process of service as well as the quality of service received. The concern for fairness is salient now more than ever as the internet has facilitated information sharing and searching. It takes just few clicks to get information on how others are being treated and make comparison. By encompassing fairness in the customer satisfaction framework, we hope it would be helpful to managers in understanding how fairness affects customer perception and evaluation, and help them improve their service by addressing the fairness dimension. The positive relationship of fairness and trust and perceived value open of new research vulnerability of the indirect effect of fairness mediated truth. This construct, for example, customer loyalty and patronage tension. These results have important implications for service managers. Fairness is decomposed to three dimensions under online text, right?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shadab Khan. I belong to Colloquium of Information and Communication Technology, International Islamic University, Malaysia. I am here to present my poster titled as Teachers' Behavioral Intention and Acceptance of Technology as Intervention for Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder, which is formerly known as ASD. So my poster is divided into 7 halves, and we'll start from the abstract. The technological advancement assesses the neurodiversity among learners under the umbrella of inclusive education programs. This is supported by the United Nations Charter for Quality Education under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Special education reforms under the Malaysian scope are influenced by the Shared Prosperity Vision of 2030. Early intervention-based teaching and learning process is advocated worldwide, as it has shown positive cues towards neurodiverse learners, especially those with autism spectrum disorder. The study explores most significant technology-based intervention factors that influence teachers' behavioral intention responsible for teaching children with ASD. A conceptual framework has been developed based on the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology model, or we call it as UTAUT2 model, and other studies to address the problem and identify possible cues for the stakeholders' solution. A substantial number of hypotheses have been developed, which will be tested through the survey questionnaire and analyzed using SPSS and other technological tools for the study. Currently, the pre-testing and the pilot study results of the study affirm the positive viability of the study for continued future work. Coming to the introduction. The Ministry of Education in Malaysia has identified strategic roles for ICT resources, which are classified under the following categories. So there are 3 categories which have been identified for ICT. Number 1, ICT is the middleware for bridging the gap between the student and the school. ICT as a tool for teaching, and ICT contributing for education management system by increasing efficiency and productivity. The Shared Prosperity Vision 2030 envisions zero reject policy for pupils in need for special education, and it is the Economic Transformation Plan, or which is the ETP, for Malaysian government has a blueprint and the education policy from 2013 to 2025, and currently it is in the last phase. So what is the zero reject policy? The zero reject policy is aligned with the 4th pillar of United Nations Sustainability Goals, Development Goals, or SDG, which is quality education for humanity, based on the principle of leaving no one behind, and the idea of inclusivity. So it comprehends the use of inclusion of special need education or special need pupils in the mainstream education, and as a facilitator tool in the teaching and learning process by the Education Technology Division for the Ministry of Education in Malaysia. So here ICT has been promoted as a technological intervention for tool for educators as well as the learners, and especially we talk about the autism spectrum disorder or autism spectrum disorder based learners, and the early intervention is given, and which has shown in the previous studies that it has related to a substantial recovery. The effectiveness of teaching in early stages intervention program for children on the autism spectrum disorder, and that could save financial cost of millions of dollars spent on the academics and the support provided to a learner from the infanthood to the age of 50 years. It has been given in the various papers. So we talk about the main research questions which we have. So the research questions are: number one, what are the special education teachers for children with ASD behavioral intention towards use of technology, towards technological use, we can say. Secondly, what are the most significant factors which can influence the behavioral intention of special education teachers towards the use behavior? And thirdly, how the factors influence the behavioral intention and use behavior of special education teachers in the proposed framework. So which is aligned to the following objectives. So the objectives have been categorized into 5 objectives. Number one, to determine the behavioral intention of special education teachers for children with ASD towards the use of technology. Number two, to identify the hindering factors in using technology by using special education teachers for children with ASD. Number three, to construct a framework that comprises of significant factors that can influence the behavior, intention, and use behavior towards the actual use of technology. Fourthly, to determine the most influential factors for the behavioral intention and use behavior of technology by special education teachers for children with ASD. And lastly, to validate the most influential factors for behavioral intention and use behavior of technology by special education teachers for children with ASD. In the diagrammatic representation, the first diagram, which shows you the Malaysian studies which have been conducted in past 20 years with relation to teachers in special education, and it is way far behind the other countries. So that was the motivation of this research, and to explore more and to develop a support for the stakeholders. The next figure explains the U-2 model, which has the factors and the variables defined altogether. So moving on towards the methodology part. So methodology, we talk about the qualitative research. First of all, we are trying to identify the qualitative research for this particular study, where statistical conclusions to collect actionable insights are essential for using cross-sectional design. Type numbers, design type numbers provided a better perspective to make critical decisions. So we are using the cross-sectional design type under the qualitative research for the study. Then we have the population of the respondents are from the schools under the Malaysian Ministry of Education in Malaysia. The cluster-based sampling is selected for the 6 most populated school regions with many special needs schools in the peninsular Malaysia. So we're talking about only the peninsular Malaysia, and the regions are being identified. The clusters is identified in the group of Penang, Kuala Lumpur Federal Territory, Selangor, Melaka, Johor, and Terengganu. So the table which is given, it supports the results and conclusion. The pilot study is estimated to be measured items dependability through the internal consistency of Cronbach alpha, which is employed in the questionnaire. So the Cronbach alpha values between 8.25 and 0.825 and 0.956. So these are the two values which have been identified the range, and all the values which have been collected in our data fall well within the range. So it says the pre-testing and the pilot studying initial success encourages in-depth survey among the special education teachers and for ASD children, and the adopted methodology, this research will essentially extended to complete the research questions and derived objectives. Machine learning algorithms will be employed for future use on the statistical tools to support the statistics which we have been obtained with the help of SPSS and other technological tools. Thank you for your time and effort. We have published a few articles. 2 have been mentioned here and others are being in the pipeline. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kakaire Abdu. I am a student at Sultan Azlan Shah University pursuing a PhD in management. I am humbled and privileged to be presenting and sharing my tentative research results under the title The Non-Statutory Welfare Schemes, the Unpopular Passage to Improving Staff Welfare Conditions in Organizations with colleagues, the postgraduate students in the different sister institutions. The human resource is said to be the most important resource that an organization can have. And when we say human resource, we are basically referring to employees of an organization. Some scholars refer to the human resource or employees as the engine of an organization. Others refer to the human resource as the assets of an organization. And different reasons or arguments are advanced for this kind of thing. One of the reasons is that these employees engage in a number of activities which help organizations to achieve their goals and objectives. The human resource is also used to mobilize all the other forms of resources on top of organizing them. So if you have the right people in the right places or positions in an organization, then you will definitely be in position to use them to mobilize and harness all the other forms of resources. And that is simply the reason the human resource is regarded as the most important resource. Now, if employees are important to an organization and they help organizations to achieve their objectives, their welfare is equally supposed to be taken care of by these organizations, because if it is not, then they may not be in position to deliver what is expected of them as employees. A number of studies indicate that the well-being of an employee at home and at the workplace has a direct bearing on their efficiency and effectiveness at work. Employers, therefore, are expected to give equal attention and priority to both statutory and non-statutory staff welfare benefits to keep employees efficient and effective. However, whereas non-statutory welfare schemes are said to be a double-edged sword which benefit both organizations and the employees, and they are equally important in improving the welfare conditions of employees as well as increasing the performance of organizations, they remain so unpopular, and many organizations only pay attention to employee welfare benefits which are punishable by law if not provided. In this study, as presented in the research poster, there are 3 research objectives. And the first research objective was to establish the effect of employee medical insurance schemes on the performance of employees in organizations. The second objective was to assess the effect of employee travel concessions and transport allowances on the performance of employees in organizations. The third one was to ascertain the effect of employee soft loans on the performance of employees in organizations. And these 3 objectives have 3 corresponding research questions, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into that. Now, when I was collecting data, I used a Google form, and I collected data from 173 respondents. The Google form questionnaire that was generated was based on a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. data was analyzed using SPSS. That is the data that was collected. And descriptive data analysis tools were using SPSS software was used in this process. Now, to paint a very clear picture between the dependent and independent variables of this study, I came up with a conceptual framework as indicated in the research poster here. And under independent variables, I have the medical insurance schemes. I have the travel concessions and transport allowances, then soft loans. Then the dependent variable in this study is the employee performance. Now, this conceptual framework tries to show the relationship between the independent variables and the dependent variable. And under normal circumstances, and according to a number of studies, if organizations extend and provide medical insurance schemes, and they also offer travel concessions and transport allowances that are adequate, and they also extend soft loans which are adequate to their staff, then it is assumed that these employees will be motivated, and their performance at the workplace will definitely improve. Now, this study here adopted a quantitative research design. And the reason for adopting this quantitative research design is basically because of the nature of the research problems that were investigated. And from the research design, we go straight to the tentative research outcomes. The reason I'm saying tentative research outcomes is because this research or study is still ongoing, and I don't have conclusive research results yet. But for purposes of this poster research competition, I decided to use the information that I have so far collected to be in position to present what I have to present. Now, we have tentative research results on objective number 1. And results showed that 60.1% of the participants reported that their organizations were not willing to meet the cost of their medical insurance. 57.8% participants reported that their employers partially funded their medical insurance. 56.1% participants indicated that their medical insurance schemes did not cover immediate family members. 48% noted that their salaries were cut to meet the medical insurance costs, while 52.6% reported that they were not healthier and not more productive because of the health services extended to them by the organizations. Those are the findings for objective number 1. Then the tentative results for objective number 2, which is to do with transport allowances and travel concessions, indicate that 39.1% of the participants indicated that their institutions offer them with transport facilities or allowances while on duty. However, 58.4% reported that the travel concessions and allowances offered to them was inadequate. A number of them also indicated that the amount of money given to them was inadequate. 70.5% of the participants noted that it was difficult to access car loans from their employers, while 65.3% of the participants also reported that their organizations do not provide transport to and from work. Now, when you look at the tentative results, for the three research objectives, it is clearly indicated that employers and organizations don't normally seriously focus their attention on the non-statutory welfare schemes, forgetting that they are equally important when it comes to improving and motivating the employees is concerned. Conclusively, or in conclusion, the descriptive statistics for the study constructs above, which included employee medical insurance schemes, employee travel concessions and transport allowances, and the employee soft loans, generally show that organizations do not properly provide non-statutory welfare benefits to their staff, and this of course negatively affects their employees' performance. The study therefore recommended that organizations need to comprehensively improve the well-being of their employees both at home and within the organizations by paying equal attention to both statutory and non-statutory employee welfare benefits, since both of them have a direct bearing on the efficiency and effectiveness of the employees at work. I take the opportunity to thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome viewers. So my name is Nurul Miza Rashid. I am from the Department of Psychology at International Islamic University of Malaysia under the Faculty Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences. So for my research, I'm going to talk about a part of my PhD research. So this is the last study I've conducted. It is titled Examining the Effect of News Media Coverage on the Syrian Civil War Towards Radical Extremist Mindset Among Malay Muslims. So for my study, I began to look at how radical extremist mindset is formed through understanding the effect of newspaper covering about the Syrian Civil War. So as a background study, I began to look at the statistics. There is an increase in support for acceptance and willingness to use violence. The acceptance and willingness to use violence is referring to the radical extremist mindset. This happens during the peak of Syrian Civil War in Malaysia, which could be a result of the increase in media coverage of Muslim oppression in the country. The country referring to the Syria, like in Malaysia, it's referring to the people in Malaysia, how they feel affected from the Syrian Civil War, likely because of the reading of the news could actually have an impact on how they perceive what is happening to Muslims all around the world. But the actual effect is yet to be determined empirically among Malay Muslims. So I began with the research question, is there an effect of news coverage of Syrian civil war towards radical extremist mindset among Malay Muslims? I hypothesized that the level of radical extremist mindset will increase after exposure to the news on Syrian civil war. For my research method, I used the design experiment repeated measures design. And for the participants, of course, I have carefully selected Malay Muslims as my participants, and they were aged between 18 to 60 years old, 248 total, with a mean age of 22.89 or standard deviation 6.77. For the materials, I'm going to pay attention towards two different materials that I've used. One of it is the manipulated independent variable. What I use is that news articles covering the Syrian civil war extracted from two different Malaysian online news websites. These websites are the Star Online and Berita Harian. The materials are carefully selected through looking at whether it covers the Syrian civil war and whether it covers, regarding the Syrian civil war, painting the Muslims as being oppressed and painting the extremists as someone that is basically a good person. And then looking at that, the dependent variable, I used the adapted radicalization process skill, firstly introduced by Dewey, and the adapted skill covered three different factors. The own violent intentions, referring to personal intention to use violence oneself. And then there's the attitude towards Muslim violence against political figures, meaning whether you support or reject. And then the attitude towards Muslim radicalization. So the sample materials, as you can see, are on the right. So I've selected some of the sample materials basically covering the Syrian civil war and also covering basically the extremists that are contributing to the death as someone possibly fighting for the cause of Muslim. So there are 3 different examples of pictures selected and also 3 different samples of text. You can read it here. So the first text says, "This is my first time to embark on a jihad because there was no one worse than the Bashar. Even Stalin was merciful compared with him," said the young man who wore a ski mask and had a black badge bearing an Islamic religious slogan sewn onto his green fatigues. Another text says, "At least some people in Aleppo seem willing to tolerate even gruesome retribution by the jihadists. Yes, they have the sword and beheading, but only for those people who deserve it," said Hadi, a bearded rebel who spoke in the corridor of a bombed-out building that served as a getaway to a front line. And then we have the last text. "Anyone fighting the regime is a mujahid and a revolutionary, and we kiss their forehead," said Okaidi, adding that their numbers were not more than 500 in Aleppo. So these are some of the sample texts that I use to see whether there is an effect of news media coverage. And then from the procedure, what I did was that interested participants were redirected to a Google form link containing the consent form, demographic questions, and the scale measuring radical extremist mindset, as well as basically the news media coverage. The news articles, of course. Once the first form is completed, the participants were provided with the second link of Google form. Pardon me, let me repeat that. So for the demographic, for the first part of the scale, so for the procedure, what I did was that interested participants were directed to a Google form link containing the consent form, demographic questions, and the scale measuring radical extremist mindset. Since I'm doing a pre-post or repeated measures design, the first form is basically the pre-site, the before exposure. Now, once the first form is completed, the participants were provided with the second link of Google form. The second Google form contained the news articles. The participants were requested to read the article and answer questions related to the articles to indicate comprehension and attention. The participants were requested to fill in the scale measuring radical extremist mindset for the second time as well, which is also available in the second Google form. Now, what I did for the analysis is that I compared the score from before, basically the answers from their first Google form, with the answers for the second Google form on the radical extremist mindset. I ran an analysis of variance and found that there was a significant effect of news exposure towards the attitude towards Muslim violence against political figures. And then the post-hoc test results further revealed that there was a significant difference between pre and post exposure to news exposure, with greater log score in the post compared to the pre. That means there is an increase in support towards radical extremist mindset, increased level of radical extremist mindset after exposure. However, the other 2 factors were non-significant, so that means that possibly support for the use of violence by others against political figures could have an impact. However, in terms of Muslim radicalization and own violent intention might not be as affected. So for the conclusion, for my study, it contributes to the current understanding of media effects in the formation of radical extremist mindset among Malay Muslims. Media exposure on Muslim oppression in countries such as Syria could lead to increase in the support in the use of violence by others. But there was no indication that the media coverage could affect willingness to use violence. Therefore, it is recommended that future studies further look into this. What could be the main triggering factor aside from media or combined with media causing people to have personal intention to use violence themselves?
Assalamualaikum and greetings. Thank you for watching this video. I'm going to present my research proposal titled The Development of Mindfulness Parenting Module with Islamic Integration for Muslim Parents with Atypical Children, or in short, IMPACT, using ADDI model. So I am Inara. I'm with Dr. Jamila Hanum and Dr. Mardiana. We are from International Islamic University, Malaysia. A little bit on the introduction of what is mindfulness. Okay, so mindfulness is the state of being present and aware of one's behavior, thought, and emotion without being judgmental at the present moment. Okay, so this practice has been in a clinical setting for about 30 years. Okay, And among the most common disorders used to manage the symptoms are chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. Okay, and among the most commonly studied mindfulness practice mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) for chronic pain and stress-related disorders. Okay, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy (MBCT) for depression, anxiety, and addiction. So we can see here that mindfulness in a clinical setting has been around for quite some time. Okay, and many studies has been conducted to see its effectiveness in treating various psychological disorders. Okay, and this is has been incorporate with parenting as well since its introduction in the clinical practice. Okay, this is the brief version of the statement of problem. So past studies has found that parenting generally is not easy, and this is especially more so among parents who's caring for their atypical children. Okay, so this group of parents might benefit from psychological support because they are more at risk in developing psychological disorders, which this might do affect the relationship and the well-being of both the parents and their children. Okay, so past studies also shown that mindful parenting may reduce the psychological distress level and enhance the well-being of the parents of atypical children. However, it is noted that this has not been extensively studied, okay, especially among the Muslim Malaysian population. So we meant to address this by proposing to conduct the study in developing the mindfulness parenting module with Islamic integration for Muslim parents with atypical children or impact. There are two main significance of the study. First is based on the theoretical perspective, in which this study will add into the body of knowledge as it will contribute in producing a product, which is the impact module using the ADDIE model, okay, based on the design and developmental research paradigm. And from a research perspective, this research will add a psychometrically sound parenting module which can be used in the local Muslim population. So some literature review about mindful parenting. So mindful parenting refer to the process of being aware and present at the moment in non-judgmental manner while attending to your children. Okay, so previous study has reported that parents of children with special needs are at risk in developing higher stress level and psychological disorders like depression, anxiety, and others. Okay. So, mindful intervention and therapy, which has been implemented and studied, has found that the program may reduce the level of stress and risk of psychological disorders. Okay, so another one systematic review of 10 studies of parents with autism spectrum disorder supported that mindfulness-based intervention have a long-term positive effect in relieving stress. Okay, so in Malaysia, up to this date, there is only one study reported that the mindful parenting among parents with a speech pathological disorder had been able to reduce the psychological distress. A little bit on the Islamic concept of muraqabah, as we plan to use this concept in the development of impact. Okay, so muraqabah has been associated with several meaning, like to watch over, to keep an eye, as well as meditation and contemplation. Okay, so muraqabah has been widely used as an Islamic contemplative exercise. So, and for this module, we intend to relate this concept in restructuring the parents' thought or belief that towards that the child as a blessing, and all the challenges and difficulties in their caring of their children will be rewarded hereafter. So this research will use ADDIE model, which satisfied the design and developmental research design, or DDR, in developing the proposed module, the impact. Okay, so we use ADDIE model because this model is a generic and directly adhere with the DDR phases itself. Okay, so as you can see here, ADDIE consists of 5 consecutive phases, as the acronym implies, which is the analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. So I'm going to talk about this more in the method section later. So as mentioned before, our methods will be guided based on the ADDIE model. So the first phase, which is the analysis, is to analyze the problems or learning objective of the participants via the systematic literature review. The second phase, which is the design, is the process to form rigorous planning in identifying the objective, how the objective will be achieved, the selection of instructional strategies and media to convey the information, and this will be done by interviewing the subject matter expert using the semi-structured interview. For the development phase is the process of the development and expert validation in determining the validity of the module using the percentage calculation method, or PCM. Whereas for implementation, we will do pilot study and experimental field testing. And finally, for evaluation is the summative evaluation of the research for both qualitative, which we will use journaling, and quantitative part, which is the experiment. For conclusion, we really hope that we will be able to achieve the objective of this study, namely to produce the psychometrically sound product, which is the module, to reduce the psychological distress and enhance the well-being of our participants. So thank you for watching this video. Any questions, suggestion, or comment, you can email me via the email address as given. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome. My name is Salihuddin from University of Sultana Shah. So I will present my data and evaluation of service quality dimension at private higher learning institution in Perak. Okay, so briefly, this research is focused on the study of service quality dimension in terms of tangibility, reliability, responsiveness, assurance, and empathy towards academic management process in private higher learning institution in Perak. Okay, so it's actually aimed to assess the quality of service that has been provided by the private higher learning institution in the state of Perak. So, and to assist the specification of requirement for the purpose of academic advising, teaching, supervising, monitoring, and the most crucial management. Okay, so customer satisfaction has been the area under the discussion of the great interest to organization and researcher in a scenario with. So, why is this research? So, in the era of globalization and liberalization of higher education in Malaysia, university and college face new challenges. Okay, so give this straight out competition, university and college, the IPTS, have no choice but to improve the quality of their programs and graduate pupils so that they can compete either locally among organization or institution and internationally and create a center of attention for students. Hence, higher education is increasingly acknowledged as the service industry. Okay, so placing greater prominence on meeting the expectation and need of its participant customer, that is to say the students. All right, that's the students. So the educational sector play the major role in the improvement of human capital and the root causes of the economic development of the nation. So, the modern trend in higher education industry in Malaysia are driven by the globalization and the quality focus on teaching and learning to resolve Malaysia into education center, resulting in the creation of many public and private colleges or university. All right. At present, there are more than 400 private higher education institutions registered at the Malaysian Qualification Agency, that is known as the MQA. So, in its governance of public and private higher learning education institution, assurance in quality education is closely, and say yes, is closely monitored by the setting up of the Malaysian Quality Agency, the MQA. So efforts are need to keep an eye on both local and international initiative and ensure quality is fundamental to the higher education environment. In view of the fact that students are the primary customer of the higher education service in Malaysia, service expectations, especially service expectation, and the perception play a key role regarding the quality perception which students ultimately develop. So, private higher learning institutions should take proper steps to manage such expectation. So, this research paper tests the sub-core dimension, the sub-core, the five dimension, tangible empathy assurance, responsiveness, and reliability in the private higher education within the Malaysian concept to keep it relevant. So, the research also summarized student interperception of higher education, the management and the organization of their course, and the role of the institution itself. So in development and environment of learning, occasion with the social activity and development of student employability, the endorsement are made and ready in a way students understand can be represented in a policy decision, how institution and the higher education division can answer the student expectation, and how students themselves can participate in improving education. So one important aspect that has been seen and proven is the effort and commitment of the higher learning institution to review regularly and the quality of the education and service given to the students. All right. For a quite long time, there is no special or specific studies focusing on the quality of academic service, taking into overall evaluation. So focusing evaluation, focusedly and particularly, yes, particularly from the student perspective of the point of view. So it is the high time to know the current status and level of service quality in academic service or advising in the private higher learning institution in Perak. So the question about this performance quality must be answered through this study of mine. So what we can say about our research. So this research, we can say about this research. So the objective or the question, before we go to the question, is that what is the level of satisfaction towards service quality in academic service in private higher learning institution in Perak? We must answer that. We must answer that question. What is the dimension service quality that is the most influence in the student satisfaction? We must find out. How is the performance? How is the performance service quality in academic service private learning institution in Perak? And finally, which dimension is the most dissatisfied service in private learning institution in Perak? So this question must be answered so that we can find the objective or the result of our research that is crucial to the state of Perak in terms of education sector. So our research objective, of course, is to identify the level of satisfaction towards the service quality in academic service in private higher learning institution in Perak, to discover the dimension service quality that is most influence, all right, the most influence in the student satisfaction, to discover the best performance service quality in academic service in private higher learning in Perak, and finally to discover which dimension among those 5 dimensions that need to be improved. All right. So how are we going to accomplish this? And by doing our research methodology through sampling, data collection, instrument, and data analysis. So in our research method or methodology, the steps involved will elaborate in detail and have been carried out systematically all day to achieve the high degree of reliability and validity of this research. So we can see this that the overall is a qualitative research, which has been long used by the survey, by using survey method and experimental researchers who are interested in identifying unanticipated and influence. And this research also can be said as a quantitative research, is to seek measurement and analysis of the target concept by using data collection instrument. This type of approach is also useful in measuring customer attitudes, which is the students' satisfaction and commitment, and some other market data based on the present theory. The research is following the pattern of quantitative research as the study is customer, which refer to the student equals to customer in these cases, and using the questionnaire to know about customer attitude and commitment towards the corporate brand. This approach is the best suit to reach the purpose of this research question and to find the and to accomplish the objective of the research. Okay, so moving on, how are we going to do it? By using sampling. So it is never possible to study all the members of the population, and in these cases, the population refer to the Perak pupil, okay, the Perak people, and interest the researcher. So in every case, researchers select a sample among the population for the studies. So I choose 300 students, okay, students that are studying in the private higher learning institution in Perak, the IPTS student. So the respondent will be chosen randomly, and the sampling issues is important, very important, because it is seldom possible for the researcher to collect evidence for all members of the population being studied. So in order to deal with this kind of situation, most of the time, researcher, that is me, has to choose or select subset of all possible informants, okay, informants and information in the target population. So this selection is referred as sampling. All right. So through data collection or data collecting, I use observation, site visit to make better observation, and reuse for qualitative study, very suitable. And I use survey to require questions and answer for these questions are being used for analysis, used for the analysis, and it is more efficient than others. All right. So the medium need to do something with communicate together required information for this. The researcher, that is me, have a two option, which is the interview or the questionnaire, which can be compromised of open-ended or closed question. So during the interview, I prefer to use the questionnaire, all right, because we need more than yes or no answer. So why I use questionnaire? Because the qualitative is suitable, so an open-ended question should be used in that questionnaire, all right? Such type of question need heavy information instead of yes or no, while closed questions are easy to answer, which lead to yes or no format or lead to the theory discussed in the literature review. So where can we say that through qualitative and quantitative, this research also more towards exploration than leads to explanation. All right, right. So moving on to the instrument, and of course I need a primary data, a solid first-hand data. So primary data is a new data which is collected by the researcher, which means the researcher to the particular research to find out answer or research questions that need to be filled by the sample population. All right. So the research primary data is gathered through questionnaire. All right. Then it consists of 300 students who are studying in a private learning institution. Then beside primary, I also need the secondary data in shape of literature review as a guideline for data analysis. It's also useful in finding the answer of research questions. Now, to value and compare the primary data. So the secondary data is in shape of literature review, is guideline for data analysis. It's also useful in finding the answer for research question again. And Delphi method. All right. So the Delphi method I use because I need the third, or I need an expert opinion towards this questionnaire in developing the questionnaire. So it has been termed as a qualitative and quantitative, or a mixed method approach. In this case, I using qualitative and quantitative. The anonymous collection or narrative group opinion united with the tightly structured nature of the process and quantitatively will describe the result, reduce the approach difficult, all right, to situate in methodological category. So numerous sequence of questionnaires are shown out to the group of professionals and experts. Yes, expert, professional, and expert beside anonymous answer are combined. And the collective of the set the expert the expert opinion. All right, are the expert opinion. So the expert I refer here the expert that involved here I refer to Dr. Kamarudin from USAS, Dr. Zahara from College University Polytech Mara, yes, College University Polytech KUPTM, Dr. Zahara Zainal Abidin, and also Dr. Fairos from International Quest University. All right. So in terms of data analysis, how I do analyze this research, this study by using SPSS, because the studies came out with descriptive statistical figure expressed in percentage, which are used in empirical analysis. Okay, so the degree or extent of responses were weighed in percentage and judgment were made based on that result. So for that, we need a validity, and validity is particularly connected to the topic that are investigated and how this topic can come up with a theory which can be understood and agreed upon, and how this topic can be operational. So the data collected for this case study must be very, very valid. All right. Reliability is to make study in a way that is someone else made the same research, so that they, all right, can find the same result. All right, maybe the platform. So the data gathered from the questionnaire is presented in empirical in graphic shape, either graph, pie chart, and so on, with a percentage. And if someone conduct the same research in the future, the result must be offset with this result. So, as expected result, I do believe that this research or this study will result can be summarized. This result can be summarized according to the objective of the research. All right, each research objective can be met. All right, knowing the academic ability of the background of the student perspective, know their institution regulation deeply, capitalize the academic planning, which enhance and motivate the organization, and so on. Since it's an exploration, the objectives and the question will be answered in the future. And as a conclusion for the research, I do believe that this dimension has important positive relative with the student satisfaction and conform with other literature of improving service quality. It will potentially improve the academic process and so on, academic process and the management of the organization. All right. And it is very, very important to verify the research result to identify the critical dimension for better, right, for better overall assessment of this study. All right. And of course, parties or people, organization that will gain the very, very deep significance through the study are, of course, the private higher learning institution, the IPTS, the student itself, the management, the employee, future academician, future researcher, and of course, the most important rating system of higher education industry in Malaysia, the Setara. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you. See you again. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmad Ali Ansari, and currently I'm doing PhD at International Islamic University, Malaysia. Hope you all are fine. Today, my topic is an experimental investigation of influence of social modeling on narcissism. So there's a huge influence of social media and media on our behaviors, on our attitudes. So I want to find out. I want to do an experimental investigation on how we can affect how the media is affected on our attitude. So I will pick up one of the one of the attribute of the attitude is called narcissism. So in narcissism, there are two types of narcissism. One is grandiose narcissism, and other one is the social narcissism. In the grandiose narcissism, it is suggested that the person is manipulative, arrogant, and less empathetic. I want to see the effect of on movies on the narcissism, whether the narcissism increase or decrease if one person is see a narcissistic movies or narcissistic movie hero movies. So as you know, this is an experimental investigation, so it's an independent measure design, experimental design, in which I will take 128 undergraduate students. So I will discuss about first I will discuss about the more about the methodology. I will make two groups. One is experimental group and other one is the control group. In the experimental group, the participant shows the narcissistic movies, different narcissistic movies. In this study was held in Pakistan, so mostly movies are come from the India, from the Bollywood. So I will pick two movie clips that show more narcissistic, and in these clips are rated by the independent rater are rate these movies that this movie have include the narcissistic trends. And the other group, the control group, see the normal movie, normal movie, but the interest level in the both the movies are same, because the experiment in experimental design, both the experimental group and the control group has similar attributes, but the difference is only on the IV, the movies. So the one group who is seeing the narcissistic movies, and the other group is seeing the non-narcissistic movies and the normal movies, but the interest level of both the movies are on the same, and who is going to be going to the control group or the experimental group. We will go for the randomization. So first the person is come. We will randomize the person, whether the person is going to the experimental group or the control group. Then they are filled the informed consent and the demographic sheet and the narcissism pre-measure. It's a narcissism pre-measure that before the movies. So it's a 16 items. Its alpha reliability is 0.670 reliability. So we will take them give them a paper and the NPI questionnaire, and they will fill it. And after the movie, we will measure the state narcissism. So straight narcissism, it's also contains of the 35 items, and the alpha reliability is very good of this item. It's 0.83, the alpha reliability. So then after the completion of the total 128 students, the mean age of the students is 21.14, and the standard deviation 3.04, and the age range is between 18 to 24. As I will said before, it's an study on the undergraduate students. So the results show, as you we will apply the t-test, the media the mean of the narcissistic is 6.03, and the normal model is 5.70, and SNS is 31.03, and the other group is normal group is 21.83. This shows that those who are in the those are in the group of narcissistic model, they are more narcissistic, they show the more narcissistic trends as compared to the normal group. So the purpose and the major aim, this will fulfill my hypothesis, and the major aim of doing this research is to see the effect of the media on the society, and on the age group of people around 18 to 25 undergraduate students. So this is my study, and you will see the if you have any question, any query, you can email me, or you can contact me. I will respond on it. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Syukran jazilan ala khidmatikum wa aqulu alaikum marhaban fi hadhihi mu'tamar ad-dawli wa fi hadhihi fursati saminah. Ismahu li isma'ana Anwar Hafidzi min Antasari University, Islamic University Indonesia, Banjarmasin. وأريد أن أتكلم في هذا اليوم عن رسالتي أنا entitled Woman Not for Sale, Determination of Women's Marriage Rights with Jujuran within in the marriage system in Banjar. أقول لكم يا إخوان كما تعرفون أن النكاح واجب، أن النكاح أحيانا بحكم الواجب وكذلك الندب وكذلك المباح وغير ذلك. في هذا الزمن ممكن نجد بعض الناس الذي حينما يريد أن يتزوج ابناءه أو أبنائه أو بناته يكون مع مهر، مع المهر. وأجد في إندونيسيا أو بخاصة في محافظة بنجر أو بنجرماسين بعض الناس يساوي اسم المهر باسم جوجوران بلغة البنجر. جوجوران بمعنى الفلوس أو المال الذي يعطيه الرجال إلى أهل الزوجة، أو لمن الذي يريد أن يتزوج مع النساء فيجب عليه يعطيه الفلوس أو النقود أو غير ذلك من الأموال لأهل البيت من النساء. فأقول عليكم باللغة الإنجليزية من الملخص: a marriage is a relationship between men and ladies which is ratified through the constitutional law. في إندونيسيا واجب علينا إذا كان يريد أن يتزوج فلازم عليه أن يكتب في حكومية دينية. Although many marriages are dispensed illegally, the state also the prefer to rearrange and get them so the weddings goes well. بمعنى ماذا؟ لأن في إندونيسيا فلازم إذا كانوا هم يريدون أن يتزوجوا بين الرجال والنساء فلازم عليه أن يكتبوا في دفتر الحكومية الدينية لكي legal بين الرجال والنساء في النكاح. وفي هذا اليوم حينما نقول بهذه الرسالة الثمينة بعض الرجال الذي يكون يريدون أن يتزوجوا بالنساء فيقول بعض أهل البيت من النساء مثلا أبوها أو أمها يتكلم فلازم عليكم يا الرجال إذا كنتم تريدون أن تزوجوا ابنتي أنا فلازم عليكم يعطينا الفلوس مثلا 1 مليون أو 2 مليون rupiah كذلك. إذا كنتم لا تستطيعون أن تدفعون عن هذا الفلوس، فأقول عليكم ممنوع في القبول في النكاح. فلهذا السبب ممكن بعض الرجال الذين من المساكين من الفقراء الذين لا يؤتيها الفلوس ممكن يقولون مع الندم ومع الأسف على أنهم لا يريدون أن يتزوج بالنساء بسبب ماذا؟ بسبب على الججران، أو بمعنى أن الفلوس الذي يدفع في العقد أو يدفع في المهر أعلى على الغالب. وهذه رسالة على رسالة ثمينة، فأجيب من هذه الناحية determination of the nominal dowry in marriage makes the bridegroom feel burdened by high number of dowry. بمعنى ماذا؟ على أن مهر أو ججوران في بنجر أو في ماليزيا ممكن تقريبا، أنا أعرف ممكن أحيانا بالنسبة إلى أن ججوران إذا كان أعلى الفلوس ممكن الرجال لا يستطيعون أن يدفعون عن هذا الفلوس. وبهذا السبب ممكن فكأنما أنا أقول عليكم فكأنما أن أبوها فكأنما يبيع ابنته. لماذا نقول هكذا؟ لأن أبوها أو أمه أو من أهله يتكلم إذا كنتم لا تستطيعوا أن تدفعون عن هذا الفلوس، مثلا 1 مليون أو 20 مليون، فأقول عليكم ممنوع عليكم في تزويج ابنتي أنا. وأجد في هذا في محافظة كليمانتان الجنوبية أو في بنجار أحيانا بعض الناس يتكلم هكذا، ولكن بعض الناس الذي أحيانا لا يتكلم مثل ما أقول عليكم في هذه الرسالة. فأقول أن المهر ممكن الصداقة في المهر معنى في حديث الرسول على أن المهر ممكن واجب في حينما عقد النكاح على الأقل، ولكن بالنسبة بخلاف الججوران في بنجر أن الججوران ممكن حتى على الفلوس قبل النكاح. وهذا الشروط من غير شرط من أركان النكاح، لكن شرط أخص في محافظة أو في مدينة أو في محافظة كليمانتان الجنوبية في مدينة بنجر. بعض الناس الذين هم يقولون أن هذا ججران واجب على كل من الذي يريد أن يتزوج ابنته. فإذا كان هم من الأغنياء فيستطيعون أن إجابتي أو يستطيعون أن يدفعوا عن هذا الفلوس، أما إذا كان الفقراء هم لا يستطيعون أن يدفعوا هذا الفلوس. فهذا ما أقول عليكم. شكرا جزيلا على خدمتكم في مؤتمر الدولي، وأقول عليكم آسف جدا إذا كنت أخطأت في الكلام باللغة العربية، وإذا كنت لا أستطيع جيدا باللغة الإنجليزية. ممكن أحيانا أخطأت في الكلام، لكن أستطيع أن أكتب شيئا في اللغة الإنجليزية. فهذا أقول عليكم من بوستر في هذا الفرصة الثمينة، فأجيد من هذه الرسالة. إذا كنتم عندكم سؤال أو عندكم اختبار فليتفضل مشكورا. شكرا جزيلا على خدمتكم والعفو منكم إذا كنت أخطأت في الكلام. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا جزيلا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you so much for allowing me to introduce my research to you. Apparently, my research is focusing on foreign aid policy of Muslim donors, considering the state of Qatar as the case study for this research. In this presentation, there will be some issues like motivation of the research, questions and literature review, methods, finding results, and recommendations. Coming to the issue why this topic was selected, it's mainly because that Muslim donors are increasingly contributing in the global aid regime, starting from the middle of last century where Arab countries were used to contribute. Now currently we have more contribution from Turkey, from Azerbaijan, like recently, and also from countries like Indonesia and maybe Malaysia. Second thing is about there is a deficit or shortage of literature on understanding the Muslim aid patterns, as well as there is assumption that Muslim aid is actually quite distinctive from other countries or traditional countries patterns of aid giving. Personally, my master's degree was about NGOs, Muslim NGOs operating globally, so it was like a continuation of my research. Coming to the questions and objectives of this research. Actually, this research focuses on using the case of the state of Qatar, focusing on three aspects. The first is what is the foreign aid policy of the state of Qatar and how it is developed and integrated in the country's foreign policy, as well as how this policy is implemented and how successful it is. So the objectives is quite similar, that it is a way to analyze the motives and determinants as well as the background of Qatar's foreign aid policy, and to discuss its decision making, development, and all related features, as well as to assess and evaluate its ability to achieve its agenda. This research started with setting a good understanding about the literature in terms of aid policy globally, then coming to the Muslim aid policy, giving like examples of some countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, then coming to examine any possible or available researches about Qatar's foreign aid policy. From that, there was the need to develop a conceptual framework, starting with defining the foreign aid policy, and then aid motives, to explore foreign aid politics. I mean, in the past, since the middle of last century, where idealist views and realist views and new realist ideology were all analyzed and introduced in a way to understand the context, then coming to how Muslim way of giving aid is quite different or quite similar to the global setting, and from that also trying to tackle a bit of issues about Qatar's foreign aid policy. The method of this research were mainly qualitative, but we used a bit of quantitative aspects, especially in terms of analyzing the locations and directions of Qatar's foreign aid. Working with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is a real prestigious institution, has been very challenging, but it was really good, and it was worth it to find good outcome out of it. This research mainly relied on a lot of interviews and analyzing a lot of publications, great literature, media statements, and also records and media records and speeches, books, and journals. And a qualitative content analysis was adapted using a lot of categorizing, coding, and thematic analysis. Throughout the research, certain techniques were applied, like one is the fieldwork journal, applying visible and clear ethical procedures, as well as good preparation and using a lot of approaches like historical approach or development approach. This research has got three main issues to focus on. First, it is worth it to say that this research is focusing on the period from 1995, where Hamad bin Khalifa ascended to throne, and till 2017. But this research focused on the background of the policy. So it was like three aspects. First, while explaining the background and development of Qatar foreign aid policy from the independence in 1971 to 1995. then understanding the framework of Qatar foreign policy from 1995 till 2017, as well as assessing this policy in achieving its goals and objectives, as well as in aligning with the global aid regime framework. Coming to the findings, Qatar's foreign aid policy was found like weak, and as Qatar was tiny donor and mainly working through regional institutions before 1995. But it was found that there is a great shift in the country's foreign aid policy that occurred in 1995, mainly due to three reasons. The first one is the leadership change, which, as I said, when Hamad bin Khalifa became the Emir in Qatar, as well as the wealth, the accumulation of wealth. Qatar shifted from to gas industry and to become the second largest producer of gas globally, as well as it has adopted an active foreign aid policy that was reflected into a kind of real and rapid increase of aid, use of concrete policy institutions, as well as improving the using aid for a lot of purposes like soft power of the country. The findings also show that Qatar foreign aid policy is actually in line with the country's wider foreign policy, as well as it is really impacted by the domestic, regional, and global engagement of the country, and it was found as a central and prestigious policy being adopted and implemented at political and technical levels. Another thing about analyzing Qatar's foreign aid, foreign aid in terms of the shape, its direction, and allocation. First, Qatar's foreign aid was found that it is mainly given through bilateral channels, and it is in cash, and it is mainly grants, no loans, and it is mainly for development purposes with some humanitarian aspects, especially with the increasing crisis in the region. Also, it was found stable compared to other countries. So Qatar has been providing a stable amount of aid, and it was found that Qatar's foreign aid is mainly given to Arab and Muslim countries. The last part is about assessing Qatar's foreign aid policy, which was found very successful in achieving the country's foreign policy in terms of improving the image of the country and improving its soft power and diplomacy, but it was found weak in terms of aligning with the global aid regime standards and frameworks. This leads us to a way that we can adopt a Muslim aid policy from this study, that mostly social and political values affect foreign aid policy of Muslim donors, where Muslims and regional aspects or regional beneficiaries are the main beneficiaries of Muslims aid or like Muslim donors aid. This study recommended more research about a very prominent issue, which is leadership in terms of its effect on policy, as well as there are some changes in the Muslim countries' trends and patterns of policy that will be also a good area to study. Some practical recommendation was to do a kind of comprehensive assessment to the impact of Qatar's aid, as well as a recommendation to Qatari government to adopt a technical reform strategy considering the global aid regime frameworks. Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone once again. Those were some very beneficial presentations, but we have one more presentation for you all, and this one will be a live presentation. So if you allow me to share the screen, I welcome Brother Muhammad Absor, who will be presenting the subject Faculty Understanding and Perceptions towards the Accreditation Process and its impacts on the quality assurance management at higher education institutions in Indonesia. Can I know if you can all see the screen? If you can, then please, I invite Brother Muhammad Absor to start his presentation. Brother Muhammad Absor, are you with us? I apologize for the delay, but I think Brother Muhammad Absor has just rejoined us. Perhaps his connection was weak. Brother Muhammad Absor, are you with us now? Okay, there seems to be maybe some technical difficulty on his side. So perhaps we will be able to see his presentation tomorrow, inshallah. There were some very, very interesting subject matters discussed, and I'm sure we've all benefited from them. Just to give a very brief recap, the presenters spoke about employment. They focused on people with different physical and learning abilities, education, whether it comes to sustainable sports, women empowerment, whether it comes to the dowry or whether it comes to recycling, very vast and very different topics, transportation, welfare, foreign aid policy, narcissism, parenting, management, robust research methodology. All these are very interesting and vast subjects, and it spanned across a number of different countries, including Brunei, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Uganda, the Syrian war, Qatar, Indonesia. And these powerful topics is an inspiration to us all, and we pray that we all benefit from it and that it inspires us to all contribute towards humanity and towards building a better ummah and a better community. And with that, we have come closer to the end of our session. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank each and every one of you for participating. And I would like to thank all the presenters for presenting in this session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and may you continue to serve and guide the ummah. I would also like to take this opportunity to apologize for my shortcomings as the host of this session. I wish the organizers, the participants, and all the respected and honorable guests all the best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our efforts in this journey of knowledge and bless such great sessions like this one. Before we end, I have two important announcements to make. Firstly, I would like to invite you all to our session tomorrow, inshallah, Wednesday. This is the second season or the second series. This is a 3-day series, and tomorrow's session will have 4 different sessions starting from 9 a.m. Malaysian time to 4:30 p.m. Malaysian time. There are 4 very interesting sessions with very interesting speakers. There will be a lot to learn from those sessions, inshallah. And now, before we end, before you all leave us, I would also call upon everyone to open their camera, to switch on their camera so we can take a group picture and so we can have a momentum memory of this wonderful event that we have had. So please, all of you, can you please open your cameras so we can take a nice group photo of all our brothers and sisters and honorable guests. Okay. Has everyone opened their cameras yet?
Oh, okay. 1 minute. Okay. Take photo and 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, okay. Ish, tak boleh.
Is everyone smiling? Looking at the camera?
Wait for a while. Jadi ni, sekejap. Tu bawa dapat ni satu. Sekejap Okay, yang ni ni. Screen, okay. And then the next section and next patient. Okay, stand by. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, done it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to the technician for his brilliant work and for taking those pictures. Before we end with Surah Al-Asr and Kafarat al-Majlis. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Thank you everyone for the session and I hope to see you all tomorrow inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.